Our cabin is still 10,002, and for our night at sea we have an excellent concert from the duo. Next morning, it's Bridgetown, Barbados. Now, Barbados is considered to be part of the Atlantic, not the Caribbean. And we go on a tour, highlights of Barbados, which is a country about similar size as New Providence. Our first stop is Gun Hill Signal Station. And there used to be 5 signal stations which warned each other when there was a problem. They were being attacked by the French, the Dutch, or perhaps the English. Anyway, the steps up to the lookout was quite steep. But up there you get a very good view of how flat it is and how much greenery there is. You can see our boat in the distance, and the 2 main crops are sugar and sisal. Our next stop was Orchid World, and we had a very nice walk around the garden, which was shady, which was good. Interesting that the benches you see were made from recycled plastic.
Ooh, baby, who is taking you home?
Breadfruit in the garden, and then a view of the agricultural area just beyond the Orchid World, and then we go into the Orchid House. The collection there was pretty large, and there were some lovely looking orchids, particularly that one. At the end of the tour was this shaded area, which looked very nice, and a relaxing area along with the shop.
When the dance is over, oh me,
areas, the pressure is so low that they don't have to turn off the water between, let's say, 8 a.m. and 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. evening time together.
Sounds a bit like Nassau. And we passed the prison, and the prisoners are out in the fields cultivating their own vegetables, which was great, and they waved to us.
Somebody to keep me warm.
Our final stop was Sunbury Plantation House, which was an old house, and the old furniture is still in the house, but the owners no longer live there. And it was pretty interesting, a lot of old artifacts, including this flycatcher. And then the highlight of the tour, a demonstration on how to make Planter's Punch and Old Rum Punch. And these 2 wonderful ladies, who were very funny, mixed the punch in those jugs.
Okay, and this is where the most important part comes in. Is it? The complexion gonna come, Rosie. I can bring the complexion together. Don't worry, darling. Master mixologist now. Yeah.
They kept pouring extra bottles of rum into the mix, so it was a happy afternoon. And then we had a taste of Dooley's. Dooley's is a liqueur rum, and that really finished us off. So we passed a couple of cathedrals and things on the way back to the boat, and that was it. Our friends Kim and Thomas from the Master Suite across the hall introduced us to Lisa, who was working on the ship and was going to come to the Bahamas, but decided, having met us, she would go to China instead. On our way to Antigua, we passed Montserrat, which, if you see, is a tiny island, and there are a couple of photographs of it. Looks like just a volcanic mound. Arriving in St. John, which has very little to offer. The south side of the island is very pretty because it's mountainous, but St. John, the capital, has a cathedral which was under heavy maintenance, and there is a group going off on a tour which we declined to do. Instead, we went to a restaurant on the beach. After a long wait for our lunch, we have it and then return to the ship in time for a cocktail party given by our friends across the way. Being in the master suite, they were allowed one free cocktail party. So next morning it was San Juan, Puerto Rico, our last stop. And as we come into the harbor, we pass the El Morro Castle, which has quite an interesting history. Our brave captain manages to dock the boat next to that yellow building. First time he's had to compete with other cruise ships. And we take our own tour ashore on a hop-on, hop-off bus. The streets in San Juan are very narrow, and after we get off the hop-on, hop-off bus, we have lunch at a Red Mango, which Linda enjoys, but I'm not sure I do, and that red stuff really didn't appeal to me. It then starts to rain, so we make it to the cathedral, which apparently is the oldest in the Caribbean. Leaving the cathedral, we see a pilgrim on the right there making his way to do his penance, and we set off for El Morro, passing a cat having its lunch on the way. El Morro was successfully defended by the Spanish against the British and the Dutch, but it started to rain and we didn't have umbrellas. So when we got to the entrance, we decided to turn back, and some of us wanted to keep our hair dry with a funny sort of towel. We then took a taxi back to the boat, and there is a second fortification in San Juan. It's quite an interesting place. So now we're off on our final leg, 2 days at sea, past the Bahamas, with the beautiful blue waters, and then it's Eleuthera. And we hope to see Rosemary waving from Harbour Island. You can just see it in the distance, in fact. And the seagulls came to accompany us on the way. We passed Great Harbour Key, which you can also just see in the distance. And then it's Miami, and that's the end of the cruise. Happy days, and we did enjoy it. Just a final look at our accommodation. We disembark and take a flight back to Nassau and home.